You guys to 30 Days to Amaze, day 11. I'm assuming everything is working. Sorry about being a little bit late. I'm working with some new technology here and working out a couple of the bugs. And so let me just see if this is firing up. All right, looks good on my end so far. Yeah, the big red button on my screen that you can't see, if I don't press that big red button, bad things happen. But that is the end of the bad things happening today, because today I'm very excited, as I gave you in the email yesterday, that we have a very special guest. And as promised, a very special superstar with us today. So I'm going to bring in L. Russ here. So let me press more buttons. Let's see if I can get this to work. You can probably hear her. So let's see. All right, there she is. And
Hi.
there's her name. Hey, El Russo. Everyone at home, give a big, rousing 30 Days to Amaze applause for this person. So I'm going to just introduce her, and then I'm going to have her just share a little bit of her story. But man, where do I start? I'll start with her. She's a accomplished author. She's written a bunch of books, one of them being The Paleo Thyroid Solution. It's the best resource I've ever come across with anyone dealing with any kind of thyroid issues. And the reason it's such a bestseller is because of all the people, all the traffic that I've sent her way. And so I just cannot recommend that book to you or anyone else that you know of that's dealing with any kind of thyroid issues. This is the best resource I've ever come across with that. She's an accomplished podcast host of one of my favorites, The Primal Blueprint and Kick-Ass Life. A renowned public speaker, actress, screenwriter. She's got her own IMDb page. So, I mean, how many people can say that? That's pretty cool. And she's also, I think one of the favorite things about her, she's a master quoter of certain, let's just say, 80s classic films, such as Airplane. And she's one of my top favorite human beings. And so, anyway, is that enough fanfare? Is that enough me gushing on
That's
you, Elle?
amazing. Yeah, yeah.
Well,
You might need to write that out. I might need to put that on a post-it note on my mirror every morning. Thanks, Chris. I was glad to be here. I haven't seen you in a couple of years. I think
yeah, I
since the
know.
last Paleo FX, but honored to be a fellow primal health coach with you, and happy to talk. Now, just so you know, I don't know if this is affecting your audience or not, but the words aren't syncing. I don't know if it means anything to you.
Hopefully not. Hopefully on the streaming and recording it is doing
Okay, great.
just fine. So we're going to trust that. And if not, maybe
That's
I'll
good.
resync it later. So hopefully, yeah, just don't look at the screen. Don't look at the mouse. Let's just like audio here.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, but anyway, thank you so much for being here. Just really appreciate you taking your time. And would just love for you to share with us just kind of your origin story and how you became such a health enthusiast.
Yeah, that really wasn't my plan at all. So I think a lot of us in the health industry get there because we struggled with an issue. We had to figure it out ourselves. That's a lot of stories of people who've written books on overcoming, whether it's rheumatoid arthritis or muscular sclerosis or whatever it is, or hypothyroidism in my case. And in my case, the best-selling thyroid books have written by authors, I think, because we know what it's like. So long story short, I came out to Los Angeles many, many years ago to pursue acting and, voiceover and all this kind of stuff. And I still do, and it's great. As I was going down that road, I was auditioning at the time for all the ingenue roles, all the leading lady roles, and you had to be really fit. Now, some things have changed, which is great. I like to see more normal, natural bodies in leading series regular roles, and that's awesome. But back then, it was, oh, I'm getting feedback here. Sorry.
Yeah, that was
So
me.
the last whatchamacallit. So basically, you knew you had to look like an athlete in order to be in these roles. So I was like, okay, what do I need to do? And I did everything that the Primal Blueprint says not to do. I did chronic cardio. So basically, like every day, I think I like hiked an hour, then I went swimming for 36 laps, and then I went to the gym to lift weights like every single day. And meanwhile, was like on some sort of zone BS, keep your insulin steady type of program. Eat every and also low carb, low fat, which doesn't work sometimes in the long run.
Yeah.
It'll fail you. And I eventually got sick. But here's the thing that I noticed beforehand. I was struggling, man. Like my brain couldn't make it from Hollywood to Malibu, like on a drive. I'd have to stop at a grocery store, get an apple, get a piece of cheese and meat at the deli, like because I was so hangry. I had hypoglycemia. I had eating disorders. Like I every 2 hours I'm opening the fridge. I was never satiated. I was always thinking about food. I was obsessed. And I'll tell you what. anyone going through that knows this feeling, which is you wonder in that moment, am I always, is this gonna, like, I don't know that life's kind of worth it if my whole life I am struggling and thinking about food every 5 seconds. I
Hmm.
literally almost went to Overeaters Anonymous. I literally thought something was wrong with me inherently. And
Yeah.
I kept thinking, I know other people, but I was fit. Okay, so I looked the part. I mean, I
Yeah.
was dying inside, but I looked it. And other friends who were fit, who didn't seem to have problems, I remember questioning in my head. I was like, are they struggling on the inside too, like I am? Because I know what it takes to get this body, and so therefore, how are they not freaking out? And I remember being like, I'm jealous almost in a way. Like, I wish I could just be like her and eat 3 meals a day and not think about food or feel like I have this issue. I didn't really realize, unbeknownst to me, I'd gotten myself into this place or that there was another way to do it without feeling like, and again, and you as a primal health coach, and if you look on marksdailyapple.com, Mark Sisson's blog, every Friday there's a success story. And the thoroughfare of all those success stories that really means the most to me is that people were like, I mean, it's great. They'll be like, oh, I lost 100 pounds or I cured my skin disease. Awesome. But at the end, they're like, oh my God, but the best thing is that I don't struggle with food anymore. I'm no longer addicted to food. I literally thought that would never end. So on the going primal, that's amazing. But back to what happened to me. I started falling apart at age 30, completely falling apart. I had horrific acne. My hair's falling out. I started to get restless legs. I started to bleed all the time. I had my period every other week, which doctors tried to band-aid with birth control pill. Again, band-aiding a symptom, not looking at why this healthy young 30-year-old is having gynecological problems when no one else in her family or she's never had them before. No
Hmm.
one cared about cause or root. They just kept slapping it on me. Meanwhile, they were testing my thyroid incorrectly. So they're like, your thyroid's fine, just work out more and eat less. And I was like, yo, bro, I'm hauling ass over here. Like, there is no way it's diet and exercise, right? Now,
Hmm.
diet and exercise could have induced my chronic cardio and all this shit I was doing, could have absolutely induced a hypothyroid state, no question about it. Or deficiencies and nutrients that led to it, whatever. But the bottom line is, I was like, no, 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 I am working out all the time. And that's what a lot of hypothyroid patients get blamed for. They get blamed for like having some closet eating disorder or not doing the right things,
Hmm.
And here I was doing all of the things that had gotten me fit. And I thought, well, then it just started to backfire. So what did I do? I just kept doing the things I wanted to say,
Yeah.
which was terrible because actually, when you're really severely hypothyroid, you should not be working out like that. So anyway, long story short, there weren't any podcasts. There was no such thing as paleo back then. The only thing close to it was Atkins diet, which made me horrifically fat when I tried it in a hypothyroid state
Hmm.
because again, I still wasn't eliminating cheese and some other things about Atkins, and I just got fatter and fatter and fatter. Again, when you're hypothyroid, sometimes if you got there because you went towards type 2, if you got there because you were overweight, which can screw up your thyroid, then yes, becoming insulin sensitive, doing Atkins or low carb or keto could solve the problem. This was not that. This was not a problem that like just food was going to fix. And so the reason I wrote a book and the reason I became a subject expert is that I live in Los Angeles and over 2 dozen endocrinologists and doctors could not help me. I went to famous doctors, charged $600 just for one appointment, and that's not even blood work. Just to everybody either hurt me, led me in the wrong direction, wouldn't help me, didn't know what they were talking about, and I was left in the dust on my own twice in 10 years. So in my 30s, I struggled with 2 bouts of hypothyroidism, both of which I fixed myself alone, ordering my thyroid hormones on the black market, on the web. And I shouldn't have had to do that. I still to this day shouldn't be able to read a thyroid lab better than a doctor. Yet somehow that's the case. That should not be the case. So my book,
Did you
Paleo
get an
Thyroid.
honorary degree for that or anything? I mean,
I wish I should. I really should. Because, along the way, there were Harvard doctors didn't know what the hell they were talking about. And this goes to show you, everybody, I don't care if you have a doctor with a Yale, Oxford, double Harvard degree. It doesn't mean they know anything about your situation. In fact, it means they could even hurt you. Just because someone has an MD doesn't mean they know what to talk about.
hmm.
And why is that? Because things that they learned have been outdated 30, 40 years ago, or they just don't go above and beyond. We know for sure that doctors don't get trained in nutrition. They know nothing. So, if you're going to a doctor in nutrition, you're clearly going to the wrong person. Go to Chris. You know what I mean? Like, I would rather go to you than listen to any doctor except my paleo doctor on my book, Dr. Forsman. So, I was thrown into this. I was always a comedy writer and in the industry. And so I'd been a writer, but it really wasn't until I met Mark Sisson and I adopted a paleo diet and I put the two together And I realized how hand in hand they went. And I want people to know that the paleothyroid solution is not just, oh, I get it. You got fat when you're a hypothyroid, and so you use the paleo diet to lose the weight. That is part of it. But the other part of it is that a paleo primal lifestyle is super aligned with the most important parts of thyroid health, which are adrenals and blood glucose. They all go hand in hand and they work so perfectly together. And it's an optimal platform and a baseline to have for thyroid health. Look, I still take thyroid hormone replacement. It doesn't necessarily mean that I'll ever get off of it. I could. I've tried a couple times. It didn't work out so well. Would I try again? Maybe. But the long story short is that at least the thyroid hormones I'm taking are getting to where they need to go. And they're getting metabolized properly because I am in a primal baseline and I no longer suffer from food addictions. I'm just like anyone else where you might have a moment in life, or as a woman, you're like premenstrual, you're craving a little sugar. Okay. But that's a moment and it's not a chronic thing. And it used to be so chronic. And now I kind of barely ever think about food, or if I do, it's like I'm satiated once I eat and it's no longer stressful. And also my workouts, as you know, being primal and living this lifestyle, oh my God, I have to work out so much less time to achieve similar results than I did when I was a sugar burner. And Chris can, tell you all about sugar burner versus fat burner. So, I was accidentally thrown into this thing. I was compelled to write it. And the first book, both of them. And, it's helped thousands of people around the world. I'm so glad I did it. I will champion the thyroid health for the rest of my life around the world, no matter what, because the message still needs to get out there. I coach people all over the place. It doesn't matter if you're in Saudi Arabia, Brazil, or Australia. It is the same uninformed doctor story. Not taking the right tests, taking the tests, not evaluating them correctly, taking the test, maybe evaluating them correctly, and then not treating the person properly, mistreating them in terms of dosage or thyroid hormone combinations. So there's like all levels, right? You can have a doctor that's like, oh, great, your doctor tested all this stuff. But then are they actually evaluating, assessing it, and implementing the proper protocol for you to actually get better? And that's where I see almost, I mean, I can count on my hand maybe the doctors I know who understand this in the full comprehensive way.
Yeah. I told you that was an inspiring story. One of my questions for you, but I think you kind of answered it sort of offhandedly, because I was going to ask you, like, going to 24 plus doctors, you said over 24, and just, how did you keep going with that?
I cried every second of every day.
I'm guessing when you're in that desperate of a state, though, it's like I'll keep going to find some kind of answer, because it's like.
And what I realized is that answer was really with me. I mean, it turns out I was my own answer. Okay, now I don't want people to have to do what I had to do, but there are thyroid patients in that situation where no one's going to help them. They've gone to 20 doctors. What do you do at that point? You need the thyroid hormone. Yeah, I'll order it from Mexico. I don't care where it's from. Give me the stuff I need to stay alive.
Yeah.
It's a life or death thing. It was so depressing, and it really felt like I was left in the dust. I had to deal a lot with, I mean, look, I'll talk smack all day about uninformed doctors, but I really had to deal with some of that. Listen, there's people that have gotten miscarriages, hysterectomies that didn't need to happen, and then they later find out the truth about what their doctor did or didn't know, and they are in a pool of regret, crawled up in a ball crying because they've been betrayed. And okay, now, sure, yeah, absolutely. But here's the other side of that. Did you ask? Did you research? Did you learn about the thing someone diagnosed you, and did you just put your health into their hands? Because that's what I did. I just followed the doctor, took all the pills, da 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 da. Now the information wasn't out there now. It's out there now. There are thousands of podcasts. Podcasts didn't exist at that time. So I couldn't have found all this free information. Paleo Primal didn't even exist, and people weren't really talking about this except for one other fellow author named Janie Bowthorpe of Stop the Thyroid Madness. And for everyone suffering with a thyroid condition, her website is probably the best website to go to for informational resources. I also have a free thyroid guide on my website as well, with all the tests you need to get. How do you assess before you even go into doctor, whether know what they're talking about or not, to try to sort of preempt, continually wasting copays and things like that when you go into doctors. So, it was weird. It's like everyone else. Your test is your testimony. I was obviously meant to champion this. So yeah, it's been a really great ride. And, I pitched it to Mark, and he said, I've been wanting to do a thyroid book. And so, yeah, hopefully at some point I'll probably do a second edition. I'm also working on a course, for it as well. So people can really get the in-depth nuances of dosing and all of these other things to arm themselves to help their doctors help them.
There you
That's
go.
really the case. I mean, most of the time, I mean, I have talked with some clients and their doctors together, which I find really amazing that a doctor would be even willing to talk to a non-MD author about this. But you know what that
Hmm.
shows? That shows that they want to learn. And I like that about them. And every
Yeah.
time that happens with a client, I just profusely, like glorify them for that decision because it's really smart. The most of the coaching I do is really getting people to understand their particular situation so they know what to do so that they can kind of dictate and work with their doctor and help their doctor practice medicine with them so that they can get better. But if you're not armed with the knowledge, then you don't know how to even counteract a decision or a declaration that your doctor might make.
Hmm.
So you kind of can't get away without knowing about it unless you somehow land into the perfect doctor's lab who knows everything. Great, you're lucky, but what if they retire someday? You better know about this. You know, there's people suffering that don't need to be because they've just been like, oh, my doctor said I just take this pill and that's whatever, but they still
Hmm.
feel crappy because they don't understand it. So that's really the truth. The truth about the book and in general is educating you to understand your own situations that you can help your doctor help you help yourself if you had to. Which again, I don't want anyone to do this without a doctor, but there are thousands of patients that have had to
Sure.
just like me. And I'm live in Los Angeles. I have some of the best medical care here. I wasted $15,000 I didn't have many years ago
Hmm.
going to all these doctors. They all steered me wrong. They all hurt me. They didn't help me. And I was the only one who helped myself. And isn't that a damn shame? I live in Los Angeles, you guys. So what's someone doing in the middle of Nebraska? Unless they luck out with an amazing doctor somewhere, right? This is tough. This is a tough thing for thyroid patients to find a doctor who gets it. But the way to circumvent that is you get it. You learn it, you get it, and you dictate your own healthcare.
And I think one of the things I appreciate about you, Elle, and a lot of people who have had similar health stories is like, okay, like you provided us a book and you have a free thyroid guide and help you understand T1 or T2 and all those blood tests and things like that. But, underneath all of that, I think what undergirds that is like, no, it's helping us take control and ownership of our own health, because I think so many of us just feel so powerless. You go to the doctor and they give you some blood work and they tell you you've been diagnosed with fill in the blank. And then it's like, well, if I don't feel that empowerment or in charge or responsible for my own health, then I'm kind of at the whims of whatever the experts tell us to do. Can you relate to that?
100%. You're absolutely right. And also, I mean, I'll throw out this Chef Courtney Contos. You can go to ccontos.com. She's a friend of mine from high school. I've interviewed her. She is also a functional medicine coach now and also a chef. She cured herself of rheumatoid arthritis. But for 10 years, she was told she was on all these medications. She was told by everybody, sorry, it's just going to be the way it's going to be. You're only going to get worse. You're going to spend your life in a wheelchair. Then she was in a wheelchair, could not even like walk to the bathroom. Total disaster. And because of the RA and what it had done to her joints, had fused her wrists, had screwed up her feet. She had to get like a, gajillion-dollar surgery for it and stuff like that. Look her up. She's walking around now. She sat in a wheelchair and lost 40 pounds without doing one damn exercise. Not one. Not one exercise. In a wheelchair, 40 pounds. She finally was like, okay, food, and realized how that was contributing to her RA. So now when she goes and gets her blood tested, nothing. It shows up as nothing. So then I'd like to be like, let's call up those effing doctors that told her this was permanent. Too bad. You're always going to be in a wheelchair. Not worth testing RA because you know what? You have it. It's going to be there. It's unbelievable. And, Palmer Kippola wrote Beat Autoimmune. She's another person who struggled for 20 years. She finally cured herself of MS. What does cure mean? I mean, like remission, the antibodies aren't there. You have zero symptoms of it. That's what I mean,
Right. Hmm.
which is pretty damn close to cure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you're not suffering from it. Right. So people ask me like, I'm not hypothyroid, but would I put it down on a doctor's lab as far as like, do you have any things you take medication for? Yeah, but I take the thyroid hormone so that I am no longer hypothyroid, right? And so the same thing goes for them. They're no longer rheumatoid arthritis or MS. And, of course, Terry Walls is very famous for struggling severely with MS and helping her life out with the paleo regimen along with some other things. So this is not impossible. But my friend Courtney listened all those years. She didn't know better. I didn't know better. No one knew better, right? And here
Yes.
we are now. So, how far are you willing to wait until all your wrists get fused and you get permanently disabled because of a thing you never needed to have,
Hmm.
ever,
Yeah.
because you went to the wrong doctor? So, I just can't, I don't believe it when people are like, I have this thing and I'm going to have it forever. Some things are forever. Look, if you get your arm cut off, you're not growing another freaking arm. Like, let's just, okay. I have a
Yeah.
permanent disability. I have permanent tendonitis in both of my hands and arms. I live pain free most of the time, but I know to avoid certain things that are going to give me flare ups,
Hmm.
and people for 20 years have been like, oh, well, maybe you can get rid. And sometimes you're just like, you know what? Things are what they are. Sometimes things are what they are. And that's okay too, but we do our best, right?
Yeah.
So I do my best knowing that I have sort of a chronic inflammatory thing going on with my tendons. I do what I can do to mitigate, alleviate, and not cause problems as much as I can. Doesn't mean I can't go play a game of tennis with you. I can. I can't be on the tennis league though.
Right.
I'm not going to play it every day. So we all, and so it's interesting because I've had two health problems in my life, and they have led to a couple of books inspiring other people and really led to my mission, which goes to, and I know this is a little bit off topic, but it does go to the fact that some of the best gifts in life come wrapped in shit. We don't know what this health journey or health struggle is going to mean for you. It could be a simple health struggle like you're obese and need to lose weight. And you know what? Later on, you find self love and love for yourself. Well, isn't that a great lesson? Awesome. Bingo. Does it mean you're going to write a best selling book or you have to do a Facebook story about it? No. But there's something to be had there. There's something positive to learn from these negative experiences. I would never take them back. But hypothyroidism it's like worse than a pandemic. Okay.
Hmm.
It's 200 plus million people in the world have it, but 60% are undiagnosed. So that
Wow.
number is way higher. In the US, 25 plus million Americans have it. In the US, just one prescription for one brand name thyroid hormone. Okay, so there's lots of choices for thyroid hormone replacement, lots of different brands, generics, da da da. So just one brand name prescription called Synthroid, which is not always optimal. Long story short, it is the number one prescription in America. Still, just look it up. What's the number one prescription in America? It's Synthroid.
No
Okay,
kidding.
so 1 in 8 women are going to have this. Men have it too, but they get discounted even more because doctors don't usually assume thyroid when they're talking to men. And in general, even if they did assume that, they would take a test that's 40 years old and write it off and go, you're fine, which is what everyone gets told. So, it's
Sorry
just
about the
an
dog barking
interesting, it's
there.
been an
It's
interesting
not
journey.
barking at you.
Bring him in
Quiet.
here.
Elle's talking.
Maybe he's got something to say. He disagrees with me.
Hey, by the way, if you guys have any questions, throw them in our Facebook group, and I can relay them to Elle. And I'm gonna hold on a second. I'm gonna walk over and close the window. Hold on a second.
You know what? I'm going to plug in something. I'm here, Chris. I'm just plugging in my laptop, which I failed to do.
You what now?
My sweatpants.
All right, we're back. Anyway, I was going to say, if you have any questions for Elle, throw them in there, and I'll point them to you. One of the questions that did come in that maybe you can answer, because I think he actually mentioned both of these words, but what is the difference between hyperthyroidism and hypothyroidism?
Okay, so hypothyroidism is underactive, low, sluggish, slow, not enough. Hyper is too much. Now, lots of things can cause hyperthyroidism. Look, you could have like a tooth infection and it could get out of hand and you could be thrown into like a state of hyperthyroidism. I've seen that happen. You can get hypothyroidism from being exposed to black mold. That happened to Dave Asprey and also the CEO of PaleoFX, Michelle Norris. So that can happen. It can be induced in other ways, but forget how you get it. Usually, hyperthyroidism is related to an autoimmune disorder called Graves' disease. Okay. On the other side, hypothyroidism has its own autoimmune component called Hashimoto's. So I don't have Hashimoto, so I have just hypothyroidism, but it's not autoimmune inspired. Graves' disease and hyperthyroidism can be very problematic because you could have a heart attack, like immediately. So it's very, very worrisome. You can try your best to control it with diet and lifestyle and make sure you don't have infections and other things. Absolutely. If you can't, then the sort of choice in that matter is that you would have your thyroid like zapped with radioactive iodine and it would kill it, making you hypothyroid, which is way easier to treat than Graves. If you have Graves disease and your hyperthyroidism and it's out of control, they usually give you like beta blockers. There's and some other stuff to like calm down your heart rate. So it can be really dangerous. I mean, both are dangerous. Both will lead to decrepit, falling apart, and an early death. But hyperthyroidism is very, very concerning. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for that. Let's see if there's any other questions. Well, not yet. Hey, well, I wanted to have Elle on today because not only is she a thyroid expert, and she's an expert in a lot of areas, but one of them being, I consider her a sleep expert, and we kind of nerd out on sleep hacks on a couple of them we have in common. I'm sure she'll mention one of them at least, but I would just kind of like to know, I guess, if you can kind of share what are some of your favorite sleep hacks? And maybe you could tell us about do you have any kind of routines at night, any kind of morning routines that help sleep come in for the next night? Anything that, just all things sleep. So
Yeah. First of all,
go
this
for
is
it.
like one of my favorite topics because I love sleep. I do not go without. If I go without sleep or something happens, don't even talk to me. I am a very approachable person. I'm never moody, but man, and not that I would be moody with you, but I would. If I don't get a lot of sleep, I'll cry. Like I'll cry. It bothers me so much.
Hmm.
We need sleep. I talked to Brant Courtwright, PhD, on who's a cognitive expert and brain expert, and it's like the synovial fluid. Like you need this brain to clean out. That's why when you don't sleep a lot and you wake up and you shower and everything, you still feel like dirty. Yeah, because your brain didn't get a good washing. So many people I talk to that are friends are like, "Oh man, I'm so tired. I'm so tired." I'm like, "Well, what time are you going to bed? 12? What time are you waking up? 6? Who the hell? What?" So this is about basic time management. What are
Hmm.
your priorities? Do you know what I'm saying? Also, do you have FOMO and need to deal with that? That keeps up people late at night. There's no look, if you want to stay up till
For
1
for the
and
older crowd, can you explain what FOMO is?
fear of missing out,
Oh,
right?
okay.
Fear of missing out, where you
Oh,
feel like,
yes.
you need to be up. I don't have this. I get it when you're younger and people are out later. You can adjust your schedule. Look, I used to have to do shows, and sometimes they were very late. I had shows starting at 9 o'clock at night sometimes comedy shows starting at 11. God, we had a midnight show at one point. Oh, dude, I mean, brutal. But my schedule was such that I still could allow for the right amount of sleep. So I'm an 8 to 9 hours person for
Hmm.
sure. And I realized that when I'm really like lifting heavier and lifting more, so I'm a fan of early to bed, early to rise. You don't have to be, but I still think people should shoot for 8 to 9 hours. And so what are things that can help with that? Well, if you're struggling with that, well, any ailment, hypothyroidism and things like that can screw up adrenals, which gives you high nighttime adrenal cortisol and can keep you up. So of course, but short of some of these like diseases and things that can actually affect this, melatonin is great. But here's the thing about melatonin. If I take 5 milligrams of melatonin, I will wake up and feel like a brick hit me. I feel drugged. So, maybe you need to start off with one. So I feel like go slow on some of that stuff and follow your intuition. Like, look, I love my doctor, but even he would be like, oh yeah, start off at 5 milligrams, but that would kill me, right? So not kill me, but it would make me feel like crap. So that there's also 5-HTP for people who want to try that. Um, I didn't have issues with sleep, but I used it for serotonin to increase my serotonin, which is all related. I think a good magnesium supplement, depending on who you are and what your needs are, can help with getting to sleep, restful sleep, waking up feeling refreshed. There's like, is it sound? Do you need foam earplugs? Like for example, if I go to Paleo FX or I'm staying in a hotel somewhere, I bring like what sound engineers in LA use, these really great foam earplugs, because I won't be able to sleep with the noise. Now, I grew up in downtown Chicago where I was sleeping through fire engines or whatever for many years, but now I live in the middle of the woods and I have adjusted to dead silence.
Hmm.
So for me, I know, and I've made that mistake before where I've gone somewhere and gone, oh no, like there's noise elsewhere. So, being prepared for those kind of things, knowing like your caffeine consumption, how that could screw it up. right? Maybe you need to do mindset stuff, some evening meditation. Maybe it's the blue light blocking glasses or just turning off the TV at a certain point if you know that that riles you up. One of the things I think is just like I have someone in my family who's struggled with sleep their whole lives. Like I am concerned for them. And but they're watching like Law and Order every night, like reruns, like of murder,
Yeah.
like rapes, and like I mean, listen, I don't even want. I'm like, that's not really, that's a negative, that's a downward spiral vibe. Maybe that you watch it, in the afternoon on a weekend or something. So I'm very aware of what I'm choosing to put into my subconscious when I'm
Hmm.
choosing to subject myself to at night. Um, and sometimes I'm halfway through a movie that's kind of like a psychological thriller, but it's getting to be a certain time, and I'm like, pause, let's turn on some comedy, or let's right to just not finish off my brain with that imprinted there. So I think these things are all relatable. Now, you mentioned at the beginning, I'm obsessed with Chili Pad, the Euler system, right? Which is the sleep system Chris and I both have. You can go to chilitechnology.com. It's like a mattress pad with tubes in it that have water going through it. And it can heat or cool your bed, and you can adjust it. And gosh, I think is so helpful for deep sleep,
Hmm.
and you can talk a little bit about this too, but the fact that our bodies should be a certain temperature, how it can help us get to sleep. And then there's a warm awake function so that you don't even have to deal with an alarm. Although I have a friend with an Euler who used the warm awake function, but then it like didn't work for them, and it's just like I was sleeping. So there are other devices to hack out there. And by the way, Mark Sisson has been talking about the Chili Pad for years, and I just thought, oh, that's a little bit crazy of like a thing to go do to buy for your bed. I just thought that was like overdoing it. I realize now after having it how important it is. So perhaps if all else fails, you need to go to something like that as well.
Yeah. So you talked about. I think we
I'm
all
just
kind
gonna.
of
I'm listening. I see my charger. I need to plug this. I
go
think
right ahead. Go right
right.
ahead.
Okay.
I think that we
There we
all
go.
kind of know experientially what happens when we don't sleep well. Like, I might be more brain foggy.
Oh,
I might be a little bit more cranky, just not functioning well. But can you talk about, and I don't know if you know much about this or not, but when I talk to people about sleep, and I say it's the second best thing you can do for fat loss right after food. And sometimes people take aback by that. Like you're telling me that I don't, like in terms of priorities, like maybe getting extra sleep would be more important than going and crushing a spin class.
yeah,
And so, do you know anything
100%.
about like why is sleep so important for fat loss if that's a goal for you?
I bet a super scientific minder would be able to explain it in a more detailed way. But I would say, like, for example, aside from the brain and the synovial fluid and what needs to happen for your sort of brain to do its cleaning process over time, um, I, for example, because I have tendonitis in both my arms, and so for example, if I go a few days and there's been really bad sleep or no sleep or something, which, it's rare, but that can happen, I am more inclined to be in pain and to have flare ups because my
Hmm.
muscles and everything I mean, I feel it. So I personally experience the difference in my body, certainly brain, mind, emotion, of course, right? But I really notice the difference in my muscles and my body. It's like they need time to repair and rest, in order to go do that thing again. So if you keep going and you're running on empty, what is that going to do? It's really just going to mess with and spark your adrenals in a way that you do not want. You do not want to be running off of like in a fight or flight kind of mode, which you will
Hmm.
be. You just kind of also can't catch up. Don't think you can like burn the candle at two ends for 4 days and then sleep in for 3 days and have that be equal. That's not equal. It needs to be a consistent thing. I wish more people would prioritize it. I think it is, well, first of all, I believe it's an anti-ager. I mean, I think anyone would. And it's important. I mean, like you said, you have brain fog. That I say, when is everyone with lack of sleep functioning on full awesomeness? Ever? Like, are you ever your best person? Are you ever your best friend to someone? No, you're garbage,
Hmm.
right? And so I wish it upon everyone. And I'm sorry for people that struggle with sleep issues because it pains me because it's one of the things I love so much and I prioritize. Um, that yeah. It's key. So yeah, there's lots of people do grounding. There are people that I know get better sleep because they were more anxious and stuff, but they were never like getting into nature, and they just literally needed to go ground themselves and be in nature more often, and that kind of brought an overall vibe to their life that helped their headaches or helped them kind of get better sleep. And of course, listen, I mean, yeah, there are drugs you could take, right? There's Xanax. There's all sorts of things you can take to help you initially. Sure, if you have to go that route, but those things aren't great long-term solutions because they actually affect your brain in negative ways over the long haul, right? Like
Mm.
leading to potential dementia or some other things that you might not want going on in your brain. So while they may be helpful in the meantime, it's not a long-term solution. So if you're struggling with sleep, man, I would say that that was like the number one thing you can do. Like I would even tell someone too, like, yeah, I'd be like, don't even work out at all. Like, just get the sleep right. I
Yeah.
also would say, dude, work out in the morning hours at some point. You know, a lot of times people who work out in evening, especially like if you did like a 2, 3 level yoga class in the evening, that can like actually ignite adrenals a little bit and it can jazz people up. Now, some people feel the opposite. They go work out and then they're tired afterwards. I'm the opposite. I like to get up, get it over with kind of thing
Hmm.
when it comes to the workout. And, yeah. I don't know what else. I mean, ask me anything else you want.
That's good stuff. You actually said something profound that I hadn't really ever thought of before, but because we have talked a lot about just hey, it's probably good to have a nighttime ritual to maybe turn off the TV, light some candles, just where you're winding down. But I never really thought about the type, like if it's TV, for instance, like the type of programming. And it's always interesting that we grew up where like the news was on, probably like the last thing you did before you went to bed, and so you're watching like news, and now it's probably true crime documentaries and things like that. And I'm like, man, that can be a little stressful, just the actual type of programming, let alone the actual blue light rays that are probably assaulting your brain, making your
Huh.
body think that it's daylight out. So I thought that was a really incredible
Especially for
point you made.
people that are having trouble sleeping,
Yeah.
if your mind's racing. So I will say this too about, and again, we're not doctors here, but when I had low serotonin at some point, that was really mostly affecting my appetite and brain um, energy more than it was sleep. Although when my doctor saw my serotonin, he's like, "Oh my God, this you have the serotonin of someone who's like up all night long." And I was like, "Wait, what?" Because I wasn't. But I did need to increase my serotonin or it was going to be a problem. So I tried the natural version first, which was 5-HTP. Now, I will say though, so I took it for about 6 weeks and then I started getting tired and I was tired all day long, like so tired. And I knew it wasn't my thyroid. So I looked it up and a couple people had mentioned, they were like, hey, if you're taking 5-HTP and then you find that like, oh my God, you're so exhausted, that means you've tapped it out, you're good, you can stop taking it.
Hmm.
I did. That happened to me. I also had an adverse reaction to it. People are say to take it in the evening, and it kept me up.
Yeah.
Versus, so I had to like take it earlier in the day, and this was a couple of years ago that I went through this regimen. But you know, I didn't have the issue with sleep with low serotonin, but that is something that you can investigate with a functional medicine doctor. Like, is there something off within you that is also affecting your sleep? Is it a nutrient deficiency? Is it the fact that maybe you had, like, I had zero serotonin, you guys? It was zero. My doctor said, if we don't get this up, you're going to have to, like, probably go on a Prozac for a little bit. And he's a functional medicine paleo
Hmm.
doctor, okay? So and I was like, oh, God, I
You
don't
know
want
you're in
that,
bad
right?
shape if your functional medicine doctor is saying maybe a little Prozac could be good for you. All right.
That's right. Well, he was like, let's try the natural thing first. But if these things don't resolve naturally, you can't go around in life with zero serotonin. I had no idea. And by the way, I was already primal at this point. I had fixed my thyroid problem, but there were some lingering things that sometimes diet and exercise and lifestyle don't fix because you've been in a disease state for too long. And so then once you've, fixed like the things you can do, like diet and exercise and lifestyle, there might be some underlying things that need to get lifted up, optimized, or fixed. And that was the case for me too. So that's the other rule of thumb here. Like, while paleo primal lifestyle can fix a ton of things and have reverse skin diseases and so many other ailments, autoimmune disorders, that doesn't mean it's done the full job it needs to do. And this is why I say, when you've been through something like this and if you've suffered for a while, even if you did get better from that thing, this is the time to do a full investigative analysis with a truly great integrative functional doctor, which is what I did, so that you can clean up all the things that went wrong that diet and lifestyle may not have been enough to fix.
Hmm. Yeah. We got one question in our group, and I'll preface with this because I don't know if this is true or not, because I'm not a multilinguist, but I've heard that there's not a lot of third world countries don't have the word insomnia. Like that just doesn't register. Like what do you mean? You can't sleep
I'm
at
not
night?
surprised.
Like what is that? It's kind of a very Western,
I'm
modern
not.
cultural word. So if you have someone with insomnia, for instance, and here's the question: if you could only pick three actions or habits for sleep, what would they be? So if you just had to whittle it down to three, if someone's struggling with the sleep, what would say? Here's my top three things that I think you should do.
Well, I think exercise early in the day at some point. Exercise can start to make someone feel sleepier, you know?
Hmm.
Um, let's see. I definitely filtering what you are allowing into your subconscious within a couple of hours of sleep, like we already talked about, whether that's, like don't watch the horror movie where they're decapitating heads,
Hmm.
maybe. Or even Game of Thrones, something like that, which is exciting and a wonderful cinematography kind of like experience, but like that could be really negative as well too. So that. Third, man, I mean, get your diet right.
Yeah.
Mouth to anus. What do you put in there?
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
also optimizing things like we just talked about. I mean, those are the first three that I would tackle. And then if those aren't working, then you might need to escalate to something like maybe I try an Uller. For example, like you and I are into and by the way, Chris and I are not getting paid by ChiliPad or Uller to talk about their product. We just freaking love it.
Hmm.
But my friend, who's 55, got an Uller based on everything I said about it. And they are like, I've been getting some of the best sleep in my life, you know, just because it's temperature regulated. So, but now the Uller is a little pricey. So again, maybe you start off with these other minor things first. Did that not fix it? Okay, you go to the next. Did that not fix it? Okay. I still think going to a functional medicine doctor and trying to get a good workup to optimize everything going on with all the systems in your body is worthwhile. Um, Also, too, are you are you a woman and you're at the age of menopause and you're going or perimenopause and menopause, which could be 40s through 50s, and that's why you're having trouble sleeping? You know what I'm saying? I mean, is it due to something like that that can just go be fixed with some bioidentical hormones or something else, maybe even acupuncture and herbs? Are you a guy at a certain age who's having terrible sleep and recovery and exhaustion, and is it low testosterone? Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
So I would never be the person like just go for the pill or just go for the. I mean, magnesium would be the easiest sort of thing to just innocuous go to. So
Hmm.
there's lots of solutions for sleep, but I think quieting the mind in any way you can before you go to bed. Um, and again, it's different for everyone. There's people that need white noise to go to sleep. There's sound machines, right? There's all sorts of things that help people. Those things aren't for me, but I know that they really help others.
Yeah. I think it's incredible how you talked. I mean, when you were talking about, oh, hey, it's exercise and just becoming more tired, and then you mentioned nutrition as well as a sleep hack. I think sometimes we just categorize these things and we kind of separate them and compartmentalize these things. But man, it's like the momentum of when you start changing your diet, when you start awakening and exercising, and how that can help with sleep, and that just starts the ball rolling. And you can see what happens the opposite way. When you have the momentum of like you got a terrible night's sleep, the last thing you're going to want to do is exercise during the day, and you don't
Yep.
exercise, then you're more tired, and now you're probably craving a lot more junk food and
Hmm.
crappy carbohydrate foods and stuff. And so you start that process. Now you're stressing your adrenals, and now you're laying in bed at 11 at night, can't go to sleep, and now you need some wine to settle down, and that gets you knocked out. But then you have a crazy night of sleep, and it starts all over again. And so, but it's just so cool how you just kind of change a couple of those inputs, and the momentum really starts. Like your diet improves your sleep improves your diet improves your exercise improves your sleep. You can just see how
Yeah.
fun this can get and how effortless this can get when you start getting momentum working in your favor.
And not to like push substances is all, but if someone is drinking, like drinking is really bad for sleep. That sugar is going to start spiking at 2 in the morning. That's why you don't get good sleep when you drink. No, I've never heard of anyone getting a good night's sleep when they drink. Um, Marijuana. I mean, I live in a state where it's legal and you can get little 5 milligram pills or whatever. I have known people that have never liked marijuana their whole life. They hated it whenever they smoked it or anything like that, but they've had issues sleeping. They can't tolerate the alcohol anymore.
Hmm.
And I mean, some of the people I would never, ever suspect would ever ingest marijuana are like, all I need is my one little chocolate, blueberry, whatever, and I'm good to go. So listen, I mean, and I've never been a big drinker. I drink so rarely. it's a joke. But I've always liked marijuana, so I was very happy when it became legal and everything was out. I can sleep without it though. I mean, I've been in places in other countries where it's not like necessary, but it's helpful. Now, there's some people that react adversely to that too, and it makes their mind spin and it can't stop spinning their mind and it's not good for them. And I get that as well. But if you're in a place where it's legal and you can go to a dispensary and talk to some people like, hey, I want to ease into this. I just want a little something to see about sleep. That's sort of an innocuous, not super harmful thing. But again, that might be better than an Ativan or it might be better than one of these harsher pharmaceuticals that are also seemingly sometimes more expensive. So, there's other alternatives. And again, I'm not promoting marijuana for people. Like no one needs, but again, if you're an alcohol person, you might want to switch vices on that, maybe, or try. It could be a whole new world for you, like it has been for some people that I know that again would never have thought they don't even really feel the psycho effects of the marijuana at the 5 milligram little thing. They just feel the chill and then they're going to go to bed. So again, like there's lots of solutions out there that are natural if you live in a state where it's legal. Obviously California, you can just get it, anywhere. And that's not available to all people, but now medical marijuana is, and you could always, go that route if you wanted to try that. I mean, I used to work with one-on-one with patients with AIDS back in San Francisco many years ago, like dying of it. And I went to the first dispensary that they ever had in the US, which was in San Francisco. It was like a 4-story. And at the time you had to have a chaperone go with you. And I was the chaperone for the AIDS patient. And, I had already been sort of a marijuana user back then in my late teens, early 20s, but I saw the benefits beyond. It gave them an appetite when they were suffering horribly with medication. It allowed to help them to sleep, sort of dull the pain. And so it's so funny that it's taken so long, all these years, that I felt like a criminal in this world. Meanwhile, there's like 400,000 plus deaths a year from drunk driving, guys.
Yeah.
I've never heard of it. Never in the history of history has anyone overdosed on marijuana. It's never happened. So, I'm not a fan of alcohol for a lot of reasons. And I think it's one of the worst things for sleep, but a lot of people rely on it.
Gotcha.
But you're not getting the deep sleep you need, so you're not going to wake up refreshed. You're not going to wake up feeling great. And sometimes it can only be a glass for someone that can do that, versus someone, So alcohol's a tough one. And again, I'm not saying get rid of your vice, but it might need to be mitigated. There's another hack. I think Dave Asprey and also someone else said it too, where a little bit of MCT oil and a little bit of honey, like a little couple drops of honey, a little half teaspoon MCT kind of at night can help as well with some people. I haven't tried that myself, but.
Gotcha. Well, Elle, man, that was a lot of stuff. One of the comments in our Facebook group, just 2 words, taking notes. And I can relate to that because I think every time I've heard you speak, I write, vigorous notes. And so I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to share with us today. You just gave us so much to ponder and think about, and your inspiring story is just incredible. Before I let you go, tell us where we can find you and get more Elle Russ in our lives.
You can go to lruss.com. You can click on the free thyroid guide if you have a thyroid problem with that. You can also hear me every Monday on the Primal Blueprint podcast, where I interview people in the mind, body, health sphere, and every Wednesday, Kick-Ass Life podcast with Tara Garrison, where we just sort of talk about stuff to make your life more kick-ass. And if also, you don't have to buy my book. You can go get my free thyroid guide or go to my website, look at press or media, watch some interviews of me talking about it. You'll start to get to learn it. I explain a lot of these things in depth on thyroid interviews. So there's so much free material out there for you to just soak it in that you don't even need to buy my book to get the idea of what this is all about. And I'm here to tell you, I don't have a medical degree. I have a philosophy degree. You can get this. You can understand it on a theoretical level. You don't need to understand organic chemistry to understand your situation, whatever it is. So, and then for the people out there that are suffering from other autoimmune disorders like MS or rheumatoid arthritis, Palmer Kippel is a great resource with Beat Autoimmune for MS. Courtney Contos is very inspiring for her 40-pound weight loss in a wheelchair, plus getting rid of her rheumatoid arthritis. And I also think that if you are on a healing journey of any kind or a weight loss journey, you know what you should do? F the Law and Order or the Game of Thrones or the murder documentary, the John Wayne Gacy documentary at 9 o'clock at night. Go watch inspiring stories of people who have gotten through what you're dealing with, whether it's a weight loss success story, whether it's me talking about getting over hypothyroidism. These are the things you fill yourself with. And I can't emphasize enough comedy. I mean, laughing is so healing for so many reasons. And so get more of that into your life, you know? And
Hmm.
maybe you don't need to click on every headline. Isn't the headline enough? Did the headline say 50,000 people died in an earthquake? Great. That's all you need to know. Do you need to click on that headline to find out about the story of the boy with his arm caught in the rubble? Do you? That's your choice. I know that when I go down that road and I keep doing that, I'm subjecting myself to a lot of negative information, which can spiral out of control and kind of put you in a downer state and in a state where your mind's kind of rolling. So there's also a lot of really great free guided meditations on YouTube. You know, just type in like guided meditation for sleep or all this stuff. I mean, this stuff is so helpful to relax your body and your mind, and it really can help. It's helped me in certain moments myself. So there's lots of great free resources.
Awesome. Well, thanks for that. Well, you said you don't have to buy your book. I'm telling you guys, you need to go buy her book and read it cover to cover. And if you need something kind of lighthearted to help you sleep instead of Law and Order, yeah, go to Elle's IMDb page and watch some of her sketches and stuff like that. One, I got to find the full length one of this because Aliens is my very favorite movie. You know what I'm talking about?
I got it. I got it. I'll send it to
Oh,
you.
all right.
Yeah, I got
I'm
it. I'll send
psyched.
you the YouTube link.
It's like my
Oh, so do you
very
know
number
who
one
Pat,
movie of all time. So, you can quote Airplane all
did
day
you
long.
see I don't know if you know him, but so Pat Kilbane, who was on Mad TV, who wrote a book about zombies that became very popular, is the one that produced and wrote that sketch. And it was a joke parody bit on like what if aliens became a sitcom. And well, if you saw any of the visuals from it, it's kind of funny. But
Uh-huh.
yeah, so I'll send you the full video on that. It's not like a full thing, but it's
Yeah.
if you're an aliens fan, you might appreciate it. Yeah,
I am so an Aliens fan.
I'll
All right,
text it
and
to you when we're done.
please, and Elle, I'm a fan of you. So, and I know that
You
everyone in
too.
our group is a fan of you now. So, I told you guys she was awesome. I don't lie to
Also,
you.
you too, Chris. Like I love it because like you're a normal person in this world. You had some issues. You did your thing. You're now helping other people do it. This is manageable, you guys. Chris knows what he's talking about when it comes to this, and we're all human. We're all human. I'm sure Chris is going to have a piece of bread at some point. I might have a bite of cake. It's not that you're never going to ever be able to, it's about how quickly do you want to get better, and I can just say that, living this lifestyle and following Chris, you're going to feel better. You're going to feel better.
Good plug. Hey, thank you so much, Elle, and thanks for being so gracious with us. And we'll see you all later. Thank you, and you guys have a great day. All right.